Hey, what's up? So most people that knows me knows that I do insurance. So I get a lot of questions relating this. So I wanted to, because people ask about why their aunties couldn't get hospitalized or why did they have to pay for these certain charges that they didn't know about. So I wanted to do a short video talking about the five common things that people pay for that they're not aware of when they get hospitalized. Um, so the first thing is limits. There's two things to look up for in your medical card in terms of limit. First is the annual limit, and second is the lifetime limit. So I'll talk a little bit about the annual limit first. So if you look at your benefit, most of the time, this is the most common, they would have an annual limit. So if your annual limit is like 100,000, for example, so with the 100,000 limit, if anything were to happen to you in that 1 year, the cost up to 100,000 would be taken up by the company in terms of hospitalization cost, right, and the treatment. But when the limit exceeds that within that 1 year and it's not gotten to the second year for it to be renewed, then it ends. So say the 100,000 limit is there and you have to get treatment and it costs a total of 150,000. So the 100,000 will be borne by the insurance company, and the other 50,000 would have to come out from the customer's own pocket because that's the total that they have for the year. So that's something that people might not realize, and this is probably in the list that I have the most significant one because we don't know what kind of sickness we're going to get, right? We don't pick and choose. So if we get something a bit more serious that costs a lot more to treat, it's a big shocking cost. So like I said just now, that if even right now we hear bills of 150,000, that that's getting more common. It's not like such a shocking amount to hear because medical bills, right? So if you have like a not significant enough limit, and the rest you have to bear yourself. Some cards, they don't have an annual limit, but they only have a lifetime limit. So how that works is they don't care how much you use in that 1 year, as long as you don't exceed the overall lifetime limit. So if your overall lifetime limit is like 500,000, for example, and you get hit with something that year that costs 300,000. So 300,000, okay, maybe like let's say 150,000, right? Just now I said. So 500,000 minus 150,000, that'll be 350,000. So you would have the balance of 350,000 for the rest of your life. So that is also scary because when you get hit with something, you cannot add on to your coverage because you're likely not insurable anymore. So in your older days, where you're more vulnerable to things, you don't have the limit for you to rely on at that moment. So that's the second part, which is the lifetime limit. I'm going to talk about how to overcome this and what to look up for a little later. So that's the first shocking things that people don't expect. Second is co-insurance, co-takaful, basically co-pay. So co-pay is a certain amount of percentage that clients have to pay for when they get hospitalized. This used to be quite common. A lot of policies, if you took it like more than 2-3 years ago, would have this. So this is very common for most people to have. So how it works is when someone gets hospitalized, when they're going to go, the client would have to pay. The common percentage is 10% that I know, like, because I helped a family member get hospitalized and the co-insurance was 10%. So the cost of that 10% will be the total cost of the treatment, right? So if let's say the treatment was 5,000 ringgit, 10% of that would be 500 ringgit, which the customer would have to pay for, and the insurance companies will pay the balance of 4,500. And they usually have a cap of about 1,000 ringgit. So if your bill was 10,000 ringgit and you go into the hospital, so 10,000 ringgit, 10% is 1,000. So you have to pay 1,000 while the company pays 9,000. So usually these things are disclosed in the policies, but people tend to overlook it and don't realize it until it's at that point. And it's difficult if you don't have the access to the credit or cash at that moment because you do need to pay for that amount. The cap they usually have, that means the total amount, the maximum that you would have to pay, they have a cap of 1,000. Usually the most common one is 1,000 ringgit. So anything above 10,000 ringgit, say you get something that's 50,000 ringgit, 10% would have been 5,000 ringgit. 50,000 ringgit, 5% will be 5,000 ringgit, but you still only have to pay 1,000. But the hidden cost, I mean, not to say hidden cost, but the amount that you would have to pay, that 1,000, is something that a lot of people are not aware of. So second thing to look out for, does your policy have co-insurance, co-takaful, basically co-pay? The third thing is hospital deposits. Most private hospitals, they have this as a policy. This has nothing to do with the insurance companies. The insurance companies don't ask for this, but this is more of the procedure or the way that the private hospitals deal with admission. That means they require for the clients and the patients to pay a hospital deposit, usually ranging from somewhere from 500 ringgit to 1,000 ringgit. And that's the common ones that I hear. So this is a deposit, and yes, when you get discharged, they would usually refund back whatever amount that's not used up, but you would have to pay at that moment. And it sucks because, you know, you're probably sick at that moment, right? And you want to go to the hospital, and then you have to think about having to pay this amount of money in a credit card, yada yada yada. So that's something that is quite annoying at the time when you are trying to get hospitalized. So the third thing is hospital deposits, that out of nowhere you have to fork out and pay to the hospital before you are able to get admitted. The fourth thing is the room and board limit. So all the medical cards, they have an allocation of benefits of the price of the room that you can get into. So let's say your room benefit is 150 ringgit, and you go to a hospital and they only have a room available that's 200 or more, let's say 200 or 250, right? So if your room benefit is 150 and the only room that they have is 250, you would have to pay for that difference of cost. So if it's like 250 minimum and yours 150, that's 100 ringgit a day. So if you're there for 5 days, that's 500 ringgit that you would have to pay because of your room allocation. So take a look at your policy and see how much is the room you are allocated for, okay? And try to stay within that. Of course, when you get hospitalized, you might feel like you want to have a little bit more comfort, and you want to have a nicer environment, you want a single room because you want your spouse to stay in together and all that. So you might fork out a little bit extra, but take a look right now and see what you are eligible for so that you can plan for that when it happens. And the fifth thing that people usually have to pay for is when their guarantee letter doesn't get approved. So how it works normally, guarantee letter, if your card is like, you know, like most medical cards, right? When you go to the hospital and you show your card and probably present your IC, they will take a look and they will contact the insurance company and ask, okay, this is a client, what is the allocation that they have, what is the benefits that this client has, so that the hospital can act accordingly and offer the specific rooms to the client. So without that information, without knowing whether, first of all, are you a paying customer? Because even if you take up a medical card and pay for it for 2 months and then you don't pay anymore, you still have the card and you still can carry it around. So if you go to a hospital and the hospital doesn't verify that you are a paying customer and doesn't verify the benefits that you have, there's no way that the hospital can take on the risk of admitting you. So that's the usual process. The hospital will verify with the insurance company using that information on the card, because the card is just an information card, right? And they will ask for the benefits, how much can this client get treated for, what is the annual limit just now, and does he have to pay co-insurance, co-takaful, as I mentioned earlier, and the room that he's eligible for, he or she is eligible for. So if it's not approved. So in working, if it's working hours, if it's normal working hours, if it's 9 to 5 and all, this is fine, because the companies, the hospitals can just call the companies and just verify it real quickly and then get it over with. But the problem happens when you get hospitalized at like odd hours, like 3 in the morning. Say you get into an accident at 3 in the morning and you need to go to the hospital, and there's no way for the hospital to verify your policy or your coverage because the insurance companies are closed, right? So they can't call anyone. They don't know whether this is a legit case or not, whether you are a paying customer or not. So this is when people complain and say, oh, they asked me for a deposit of 10,000 ringgit lah. They have to pay 8,000 ringgit first. So because the deposit is required by the hospital because they don't know whether the insurance companies will pay them back or not. So if they were to treat you, there's already cost that they have to pay for. And then if they find out next morning, okay, this is not a real customer, if they don't take any money, then that's it, because the hospital is not going to get the money back. That's why the deposit is so significant. If they cannot verify the status of your coverage at that time. So it's very dangerous if something happens to you at like 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, there's no way to verify. So those are the things that people have to pay for and are usually shocked by when they come across the situation. So how do you overcome this? How do you avoid all of these things? There's a few ways, okay? So if your medical card is a little older, maybe before 2014, your limit is probably not very significant. It's probably in the 100 to 150,000 a year type of limit. So the reason why I say 2014 is because after 2014, in terms of medical benefits, it has shifted and changed in quite a big way, because that's when AIA first introduced the booster benefit. So it's after 2014, they introduced this thing called the booster, which gives your annual limit times 10. So let's say your annual limit was 100,000. With this booster, your limit will be 100,000 times 10, which is 1 million, plus 100,000. So you would have a 1.1 million limit annually for that. So this is something new because they realize and recognize that as people get older, you cannot get more coverage, but once you get hit or something, then you're screwed, you're stuck with that, right? So it is important to get a significant amount of coverage to last you for the rest of your life, because medical card is something that you do not want to review. You know, people say review policy, take a look, blah, blah, blah. Medical card ideally is something that you want to take a good one and you don't want to review anymore, because it's supposed to last you forever till your old age and all that, right? So after 2014, they have this thing called the booster. So that's why even my card is over 1 million limit, and there is no lifetime limit. So as long as I don't exceed the annual limit, which is already very high in the first place, then there's nothing for me to worry for, because my lifetime limit will last me forever. So in terms of limit, you take a look at that. If you are an existing AIA customer, please speak to your agent and try to upgrade your benefit to include this thing called the booster, so that you have a significant amount of coverage to last you forever. So it's definitely worth it, and it doesn't cost that much more. So like a standalone medical card, because people ask me this as well, it doesn't cost you a lot. With booster, for example, someone around my age, it's only about 98 ringgit, less than 100 ringgit lah, 98 ringgit-ish a month for me to get a limit of over 1 million and no lifetime limit. Okay. So second is co-insurance, co-pay. Same thing with the booster and with this new medical card shift, right? There's AIA no longer has co-insurance or quota kaful co-pay in their medical cards. So you don't have to pay any amount of co-pay when you get hospitalized. So that's something that you don't have to worry for anymore. And third is the hospital deposit. So this is standard and not much to be done, but AIA does have a bunch of hospitals, a bunch of platinum hospitals we call, that has a exclusive partnership with AIA to have like better overall experience and in terms of hospitalization for AIA customers. And one good thing about that as well is, for example, if you see here, see it. So let's say the one just now, like for the Prince Court one thing good that they have here is, if you see, it's a deposit waiver and exclusive rates. So with the deposit waiver, you no longer have to pay deposits as long as you go into any of these platinum hospitals listed, right? So this is good because you don't have to pay, first of all, the co-pay just now. There's no additional cost there. And if you go to this list of platinum hospitals, you just have to declare that you're an AIA customer. Then they won't take any of the hospital deposits from you because it's one of the platinum hospital chains. If you guys want to check out the list of hospitals listed, maybe you want to find the ones that's near your house, you can download this app. It's called AIA Locator. It's free. It's a free app. You can just download it and check it out. So all of those listed under platinum hospitals will not take any hospital deposits from you. For the room and board limit, So the other feature about the booster is the room and board will be increased every 2 years. So if you had a room and board limit of 150 ringgit, if you had a booster, every 2 years that would increase by 20% until it doubles. So if your room is 150, you will go up to 180, 210, 240. After 10 years, that will be 300 ringgit. So what this means is essentially you're getting the benefit of a 300 ringgit room just by paying for 150 ringgit benefit of room and board. So that's very beneficial. Once again, it's to ensure that people are not too badly affected by inflation, because it's inevitable for the room values to increase throughout the years. Even right now, Prince Court single room is 280. If you're an AIA customer, that's 250. So there's no way that it's going to stay 250 for the next 10 years because cost of everything goes up, right? So one thing good is with this, your room value will increase over time as well, so that hopefully you will still be able to enjoy the same type of room benefit at that moment as you enjoy them right now. So room and board limit, so that you won't have to fork out extra for you to get a single room to be more comfortable, right? And last is the guarantee letter one. Like I said, if you get hospitalized in odd hours. So with this, with the AIA medical card, so it is actually swipeable. I'm going to show it to you real quick. I have it here somewhere. So, okay, this is my card. So the back of my card, as you can see, this is black strip. It is swipeable. And why this is significant is because at the hospitals, when you go there, the hospitals will be able to swipe the card and see the benefits that I am entitled for. Because like I mentioned just now, the reason why the hospitals is not able to treat you without taking any money from you, a deposit, is because they don't know if you're an active paying customer, they don't know your benefits, they don't know how much you're covered for. So with this, even if I were to go at 3 a.m., they can swipe it and know that, okay, this guy is a paying customer, he's eligible for this amount of room and this amount of benefits, and they can treat me without taking that 8,000, 10,000 deposit from me. So that's why it's good and it's significant. And because of that, I don't have to worry for any of the hidden costs. I just try to go to the platinum hospitals so that I essentially wouldn't have to pay anything when I get hospitalized. So that's pretty much it. So do take a look. If you are an existing AIA customer, I would advise for you to relook at your policy, get your agent to look at it so that you get up to date and get it updated with this. If you have something if you have something other and you want to see what your options are, you want to take a look, you can let me know. I can give you a comparison and show you what it's like. But like I said, it's these are the things that we worry about, because when we're sick, when we are at the time where we are not able to kind of like move and do whatever we like, it is the last thing that we want to think about, you know, paying money, all the costs of admin costs, cost of getting hospitalized and all that is not the thing that we want to think about at that moment, because we just want to get better, right? So definitely something that you should look out for. Take a look at your existing ones. If you want me to help take a look, let me know as well. That's about it. If you think this has been beneficial, please share it with your friends and like this video if it's been helpful to you. And have a good day. So I'm gonna head home right now. See you guys. Bye.